thank you very much. Mema mwache. Habari za asubuhi. Habari za ache. Masubuhi. So as you see, we're working on TwiSwahili or KiswaTwili, and this actually came up in the U.S. in Chicago. I have friends, a lot of people there know Kiswahili from the 60s. They were talking about Uhuru Sasa, Pan-Africanism and all that was going on in Kiswahili, but they decided they wanted to learn Chi. So anytime they would get to a word that they didn't remember in Chi, they would use Kiswahili. So they would say cho, or they would say Chakula. And I said, what is this? Is this KiswaTwili? So it just somehow stuck. So that is what we decided to title our study of parallel proverbs. And I'll be co-presenting with Dr. Josephine Dzahene-Quarshie, and I'll introduce the concept and she will continue. So we'll start off with an outline of the presentation. We'll give an introduction, our methodology, conceptual framework, giving cultural distance and proximity, and then we'll introduce a novel way of looking at parallel proverbs, which we call the People's Proverb Proximity Matrix, also known as the PPP Matrix. And then we'll also give an analysis of KiswaTwili proverbs and give conclusions as well. So to start, as an introduction, Nabi Farj defines a proverb as a short, generally known sentence of the folk, something that contains wisdom, truth, morals, traditional views, and a metaphorical fixed and memorizable form. It has wisdom, it has knowledge about human nature and the world at large. And also, because we were looking at African method proverb definitions, we said Nabi Farj is talking about Persian proverbs. This is a Persian. So we can go all the way to Persia to get a definition from there. Why can't we look at other African people and see how we define proverbs in African languages? So we looked at Yoruba, which has a proverb defining proverbs. Owele shioro, tioro basomo, owela finwa, which translates to the proverb is the word sports. If the word becomes lost, the proverb is what we use to search for it. And also Igbo, inubung man opujiri. Proverb is like the palm oil which is used for eating yams. We found some in Akan and Kiswahili, but those were more about how to use proverbs and times to use proverbs as opposed to definitions, so we went with those. Also, there's an idea of a potential global or universal application of a large percentage of proverbs, because they may express the same concepts or ideas, because some situations are common to human experience. However, on the other hand, because proverbs are highly historical, culturally determined, and motivated, we have many that require knowledge of the specific cultural setting to really appreciate them. In terms of methodology, we used a random selection of proverbs from several corpora that are listed here, primarily from Asante Chi and Tanzania Kiswahili. We had a primary focus on conceptual and semantic parallels, or near parallels, and then a secondary focus on those that had similar lexemes or employed similar lexemes. And we were trying to find some type of theory that would really encapsulate what we were going for. And we saw some in media were using the term cultural proximity, but it wasn't quite what we were looking for. And that's when audiences prefer to use their own language and culture in the media. There's also a concept of cultural distance, and that's found in business and marketing, and that's basically the function of differences in values and communication styles that are rooted in culture. So we were trying to find something that was dealing with distance, physical location, but then also the similarity of people. So because we couldn't find it out there, as we did with KiswaTwili, we decided to create it ourselves. So we looked at our own dimensions of proximity as a measure of similarity with regard to people. How close are the people to each other in various ways? So we looked at biological proximity. That's dealing with the similarity genetically, phenotypically, physiologically, racially, all of those types of things. Then we also looked at cosmological proximity, similarity of worldview, spirituality. We also looked at cultural proximity, similarity in material culture, ideational culture, and so forth and so on. And then also locational proximity, physical location, similarity of climate, topographical features, all of those may come into play here. And we came up with a hypothesis which was basically that the closer these and other dimensions of people proximity are to each other, the greater the degree of similarity between proverbs of those people. And then also the greater closeness in one dimension, it may make up for a greater distance in another. So even though Ghana and Tanzania are very far in terms of location, perhaps they're very close in terms of worldview and the type of people. I'll present my co-presenter with how to take my pictures. And so you just hold this down for 2 seconds and it will come through. Because that's very important that my picture is taken. So that was one with similarity of people. This is one with similarity of the proverbs themselves. And we looked at conceptual and semantic similarity, parallel overall meanings, contextual similarity, parallel context in which proverbs are used, which is a very key point. Also lexical similarity, parallel lexemes used in the proverb to convey similar meanings. Then also syntactic and structural similarity, parallel syntactic structures used. Then we introduced the PPP matrix, not the PPP political party. No, that's Pa's personal property, not that one. This is what we are talking about. So we have conceptual, semantic similarity, contextual, lexical, syntactic. This is the proverbs at the top. Then we have similarity biological, cosmological, cultural, locational. This is a similarity of the people, how close they are to each other. Now I'll introduce the first KiswaTwili set by my co-presenter.
Thank you very much. So as my co-presenter has said, we are analyzing these sets of or pairs of proverbs using our PPP matrix. So we have we have about 3 or so. 2 in, I can't see very well, so I don't know if I can rather read from here. Okay, so we have the first one is Okotongo Anoma. The crab doesn't give birth to a bird. Aboa and I say eyo mboba na on kose or wansane. The antelope does not give birth to its child for it to resemble a bushback. Okay, so these are 2 Akan proverbs, and then we are matching them with the parallel KiswaTwili ones, which are Mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka, the child of a snake is a snake. Mwana Simba is Simba, the child of a lion is lion. So here we see that there is some locational proximity. We are talking of antelope, we are talking of whatever. They are all African animals. So, and then cosmologically, you see that there is some proximity because they are all referring to animals. And of course, overall, conceptually, semantically, there is some similarity in terms of the context, the meaning and context in which they are used. So, using the PPP matrix, we see that with the 2 sets of proverbs, we see that cosmologically they are proximate. Okay, so there's cosmological proximity, there is locational proximity, because they are all African in the tropics and they use the animals. And then we see that contextually, they are again similar. But in terms of lexical similarity, there is no lexical or very little lexical similarity. And again, syntactically, the structures are different. So we are saying that basically you see that one begets something like oneself. That is the cosmological idea, for both sets of proverbs. So we have several sets. So here we have the first one, upe intendi abrobea na owenu bunu. If you are in a hurry to eat a pineapple, you chew it unripe. And the Kiswahili version is mstahimilivu hula mbivu. A patient person will eat ripe fruits. So here again, so with this this peg, we see that cosmologically there is some proximity, conceptually or semantic. There is conceptual and semantic similarity. Contextual. What is the second one? Sorry. Yeah, there's contextual similarity, and then lexically, there is some level of similarity. Of course, syntactically, there is no similarity. With the lexical similarity, so we have, basically, we are talking of people, and then we are talking of food. One is specific, pineapple, that's the Akan one, but the Swahili one is a generic term, fruit. So lexically, there is some level of similarity. So I'll move on to the next set. This set, we have a year baha na yepa Adepa for chel. When a funeral arrives, or when there's a funeral, we are polite to the palm wine tapper. And then the similar one is a year back na yefre obetwani nana. So when there's a funeral, you call the palm wine tapper chief. And then Kiswahili one is, the reason why is that I think we all know that, I don't know, probably because they also take a lot of palm wine. Palm wine tappers are known to be very, how do I call it? I don't want to say irrational, but they are people who can easily get offended, and then if they are offended at you, then basically you will not get palm wine for to serve your visitors or your sympathizers at your funeral. And interestingly enough, with the Swahili one, we have msikutani wagema, msitukani wagema na ulevi ungalipo. While drunkenness persists, one should not insult palm wine tappers. So here, we see that if you look at the PPP analysis, you see that basically there is the cultural proximity. So the way Akans view, the palm wine tappers is the same as the Swahili people. And then we see that semantically, contextually, and even lexically, there is. It is only when we come to the syntactic structure that there is a little difference in the sense that, and we have realized this kind of occurrence in quite a number of proverbs, where the negative is used in one language and the positive is used in one language. When you the one with the fruits and the pineapple, you see, the Swahili said the patient one eats the fruit ripe, and the Akan one said, if you are not patient, you will eat it unripe. And then here again, you see that the tree one says that say a year back, it's in the affirmative. Yapa obekani chel, and but the Swahili one uses the negative that do not insult the someone tapa or else you are in trouble. Then we will go on to hey, we have 5 minutes. Okay, I think we will do a couple more. Okay, so the next set we have here is inside. Okay, so here we have insaba inkuku ageswa. One hand does not lift a load. Okay. Then the other one is insaba nso nyami eni kata. One hand isn't sufficient for covering the creator's eye. Insatia ba kum due. Headlights. You can't use one hand to kill. You need the two. And then the Swahili example, the Swahili example says, mkono moja hauchinji ng'ombe. You cannot use one hand to slaughter a cow. And then the other one is mkono moja haulei mwana. You cannot use one hand to bring up a child or to handle a child, raise a child. So these are the and we have the analysis here. So here you see that basically there is there is high level proximity and then very high level similarity in terms of the semantic, the contextual, the lexical, and even the syntactic structure. So basically, you see the lexical similarity is not that high. So we have actually graded them, if you like. Okay. So basically, all that they are saying is both. Sets are saying is that there is the need for collectivity. In the African setup, one does not do things on their own. We are not individualistic, okay? And of course, we have used the same lexically. They all use hand. Okay, so the first part of the proverb is the same, but the second part, they use different lexical items, but definitely semantically and contextually, they are actually almost the same. How many minutes do we have? Two. Okay. I think I'll leave my co-presenter to just lead us. We have several more examples that we will skip and give our conclusion.
We have a ready, willing, and able co-presenter we'll have to see several others. One thing that we wanted to do was to give you the opportunity to evaluate some proverbs and put them in your own PPP matrix so that you can actually test it out. But because of time, we will come to our conclusion. And again, one thing that's illustrated, we went over about 50 proverbs just as this first exploratory study. And there are many more, but you'll find almost the exact same proverb throughout. And again, it speaks to the unity of culture and understanding in terms of worldview. So as we come to the conclusion, and you see we have plenty of slides. Okay, here we come. So, in terms of conclusions, the PPP, one thing that we found was the PPP matrix of proximity and similarity can be a useful way of presenting cross-culturally overlapping proverbs and the degree to which they overlap by grading them. Also, the people proximity dimensions and proverb similarity dimensions both provide insights into the Pan-African connections, as we see I'm wearing the Pan-African flag today, and the unicity of worldview and culture. Also, it shows that a greater closeness in one dimension may make up for greater distance in another dimension as expected. In terms of future directions, we were looking at possibly assembling an annotated corpus to determine statistical frequencies, the degree of occurrence of this lexeme versus the other lexemes, syntactic structures, so forth and so on. Also, to give an in-depth socio-linguistic study observing these proverbs in context. A lot of these we got from a corpus, but one thing about proverbs is the context is everything, so we can even show that a similar context and demonstrate that socio-linguistically. That would be helpful. Also, translations, we were looking at doing translations of Akan proverbs into Kiswahili and vice versa to enrich both languages and enable greater cross-cultural exchange. We find that oftentimes we look at things backwards and forwards. We say we go back towards our village and then we look towards Britain, and that's it. That we should start looking laterally is the idea. What is our neighbor doing in Togo? What is our neighbor doing in Cameroon? And enrich our languages in that way. And in conclusion, Yedamwasi. Asante ni sana. Yedamusana.
Asante Bwana. I'm going to hand it over to you so you do your contributions. But I want to understand one thing first. Are proverbs able to cross geographical frontiers, or are they just universal?
What we found was that there are some, and my co-presenter can also speak to this, we can look at it as not necessarily either or, but perhaps a gradient in terms of how universal it is versus how culturally specific it is. So for example, some things that we found like,
The palm wine tap.
yeah, the palm wine tapper, for instance, that seems to be something that's culturally specific. You won't be talking about palm wine tappers in Europe. You won't be talking about palm wine tappers in Russia, Sweden, and things of that nature. Those seem to be something that are culturally specific to the African context, as opposed to the small ethnic group. But then there are others that seem to be very historically related. So for example, what was the one? And yeah, we know so for that one, it was something that we were looking at, that you have to know the cultural context that was rooted in. It's a proverb that people know in the Akan setting, but that one would be more difficult to even go across to Kiswahili, much less to China or anything like that. So again, it's not necessarily an either or, but more a gradient. Some are maybe more universal or come from the human experience, all the way down to some that are very culturally specific and historically rooted.
Please, in the Sahelian regions of Africa, can you find the equivalent of Madame's proverb about the palm wine tapper?
You're saying across?
In the Sahelian regions, where you don't have forests.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it wouldn't be about palm wine tappers, but it would require further research to see what the equivalencies are. There may be something about the one who makes millet beer. There may be something similar about, the one who makes pito or something of that nature. So that would require more study. I can't say across every single ethnic group it is or it isn't, but I would think that there would be something similar in terms of the general overall conceptual and semantic proximity.
Thank you very much. The floor is open. Madam.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was really interesting. I have, maybe it's a naive question. In terms of syntax, are these two languages similar? I mean, I was wondering if they are.
They are. They are. I mean, they are all SVO languages, so there is some similarity, but sometimes you do not have parallel, syntactic, ordering or structure. Yeah.
I was just wondering the basis of the syntactic similarity matrix, and if they are fundamentally similar. That's just
As you're saying, it's more the manner in which they chose to express that particular concept, but overall, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I would like to find out the relationship between your use of proximity and then context, because basically Proverbs are used contextually. So, and I realize that you use both proximity and context. In what ways are they similar or different? That is, with the use of this PPP.
One thing that we have is context is one of the dimensions. So we have proximity in terms of conceptual and semantic proximity, how close are they in that way. Then also contextual proximity, are they used in similar contexts for the particular proverb. And then we also had proximity with regard to the culture, similarities, and those. So basically we looked at different dimensions. So proximity is one that we use for all of them. Is it close in terms of the context it used? Is it close in terms of the concept and overall meaning? So that's one of the various dimensions.
Will it be possible to use the same PPP matrix? Let's say to cut across different cultural backgrounds in Ghana. Do you think that this will be applicable?
Definitely. Definitely. I think it will be very interesting as well.
So that if I give you a proverb in Nagari, then you can also give me a proverb.
Exactly.
And then we'll find out whether there are any similarities.
Yes.
That is using the PPP matrix as well.
And that was also, as I was saying, one of the exercises that we didn't get a chance to get to, but we wanted to have you all yourselves evaluate the proverbs. So you see, okay, how close are they culturally? How close are they in terms of location, things that are dependent on location, in terms of physiology. So by all means, if we can go from Akan all the way to the eastern shore and deal with Kiswahili, then by all means we can deal with the borders that we inherited right from the Berlin Conference.
Yeah.
Any more contributions? Well, it looks like we are very satisfied.
And we hope you will vote for the PPP.